All right, welcome. Today we're diving into something that is honestly a total game changer. It's a system designed for some of the world's toughest places. And get this, it can be built up from absolutely nothing. We're talking about creating resilience, food security, and even an income, all starting with, you guessed it, a $0 budget.
So let's just kick things off with a pretty wild question. Do you think it's possible to build a food system that actually funds itself, that expands on its own, produces food, heals the land, and even protects against floods? All starting with nothing more than a bucket and some old kitchen scraps? I know, it sounds kind of crazy, but hang with me here, because the answer is a definite yes.
And here it is, the big promise of what we're breaking down today. We are talking about a system that takes garbage and turns it into high-quality protein. A system that can take totally barren, dead land and bring it back to life. And, maybe the most crucial part, a system that actually makes its own money to keep on growing. Okay, let's get into how this whole thing works.
So our journey starts with the little engine that powers this entire cycle. It's an incredible insect that you can find all over equatorial East Africa, and it is an absolute master of transformation, the black soldier fly.
You know, starting a colony of these guys costs literally nothing. You just start with a bucket of smelly food waste. Think rotting bananas or fermented fruit. They love that stuff. Then you just hang some corrugated cardboard over it. The female flies will lay their eggs right in those little cardboard tunnels. As soon as you see eggs, you just move the cardboard to a bigger bin, keep tossing in scraps, and the larvae will even harvest themselves. They just crawl right up a simple ramp when they're fat and ready.
And the speed here is just remarkable. This isn't some long, drawn-out project. You can go from setting out a simple bucket in week 1 to having your first harvest of protein-packed larvae in just over a month. And by week 10, the whole colony is totally self-sustaining, just churning out a continuous supply.
So what do you do with all these larvae? Well, you feed them to chickens. And we're not just talking about some cheap substitute for expensive industrial feeds like soy or fish meal. In a lot of ways, they're actually better. The protein level is right up there, but some research out of Kenya found they have a superior profile of key amino acids, like methionine, which is absolutely critical for healthy chickens.
Okay, and this is where it gets really amazing, something you might not even think about. These larvae don't just reduce waste, they actually sanitize it. As they eat, their bodies produce compounds that just destroy harmful bacteria. We're talking a reduction of up to 99.99% in salmonella. That makes the whole process way safer than regular composting.
And the benefits just keep coming. The waste that the larvae leave behind, this stuff called frass, is basically a super fertilizer. I mean, just look at this chart. The nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are 5 to 10 times higher than what you'd find in cow manure or compost. It's an unbelievably potent, all-natural boost for your soil.
All right, let's move on to the next piece of the puzzle and see how this system actually restores the ground it's built on. This part has nothing to do with insects. It's all about human ingenuity, a simple hoe and an ancient trick for capturing the most precious resource there is, water.
This is called a half-moon berm. It's a super low-tech but incredibly high-impact way to harvest rainwater on dry, sloping land. You can make a simple A-frame level out of sticks to find a level line on the ground, trace a half circle, and then you just dig. You pile the dirt on the downhill side, and boom, you've created a little basin that catches rainwater, forcing it to sink into the soil instead of just washing away.
So, does this simple trick actually work? Oh yeah, the impact is absolutely staggering. In the Sahel region of Niger, this technique has brought hundreds of thousands of hectares of barren land back to life. The results are just insane, with crop yields for things like millet jumping by at least 300%. It literally turns useless fields into productive farms. Now for our third key ingredient, a plant, specifically African lowland bamboo. And this isn't just any old bamboo. It's a native species that's super tough and drought tolerant, so it's perfect for the climate. And here's the best part. You can grow it for free just by taking cuttings from wild plants. And it grows into these incredibly dense walls that serve a ton of different purposes. Okay, so bamboo is more of a long-term investment than the flies for sure, but it starts paying you back really fast. I mean, within just 2 or 3 years, you've got a solid windbreak protecting your crops. By year 4, you can start harvesting some of it to make charcoal. And by years 5 to 7, it's a total powerhouse, giving you strong poles for building and forming a living wall that can stop a flood in its tracks.
So, we've looked at the pieces, right? We've got the flies, the berms, and the bamboo. But the real magic, the true genius here, isn't in any one of those things. It's how they all connect.
how they lock together to form this amazing, self-reinforcing and self-funding loop.
It all begins right here. Organic waste, which is normally a huge problem that attracts pests and disease, suddenly becomes your #1 resource. It's the fuel for the whole engine, and you feed it directly to the black soldier fly larvae.
Next, those larvae work their magic, converting that garbage into their own body mass, and in the process, they become the perfect high-protein chicken feed. This one step completely eliminates the cost of buying industrial feed, which, as you know, is almost always the biggest expense when you're trying to raise poultry.
And here's where the system gets really smart. It's this beautiful feedback loop. The chicken manure, another so-called waste product, just gets mixed with more food scraps and fed right back to the larva. The system literally eats its own waste to create more value. It's brilliant.
Now let's connect the other pieces. You take that nutrient-packed frass from the larva and mix it with biochar, which is just charcoal you make from that bamboo we talked about. This combo creates an incredibly powerful soil amendment that you then use in those half-moon berms to supercharge your crops.
And finally, the bamboo brings it all home by closing the financial loop. The charcoal you make from the harvested bamboo can be sold at the market, which generates actual cash income. That money can then be used to expand the whole system, build another chicken coop, get more BSF bins, buy better tools. The system literally funds its own growth.
So, let's put it all together one more time. Waste feeds flies. Flies feed chickens. Chicken poop feeds more flies. The fly frass and the bamboo biochar feed the soil, and the bamboo provides a cash income to grow the entire operation. It is a perfect, self-funding circle.
Now, I know this might sound like a really great idea on paper, but I want to be crystal clear about this. This is not just a theory. While putting all the pieces together like this is a new idea, every single one of these components is already out there in the real world working successfully right now. Don't just take my word for it. Look at who's already doing this stuff. Huge organizations like the UNHCR and the World Bank are backing insect farming projects in refugee settlements. The Danish Refugee Council has a BSF unit in Dadaab camp. Research centers have trained thousands of farmers. And groups like Just Dig It have helped dig nearly 500,000 of these berms in Kenya. The pieces are already on the board and they are proven to work.
And this is what it means for real people. This quote is from Francine Mashimango. She's a refugee from the DRC, and she was trained in one of these projects. Now she's feeding about 50 of her own chickens with larvae that she produces herself, for free. That is a real, tangible impact on a family's life.
So let's end with this thought. We often think that to solve these massive global problems like poverty, food insecurity, and climate change, we need huge top-down investments, billions of dollars. But what if the most powerful solutions aren't big at all? What if they're small, decentralized, and circular? What if the key isn't really about money, but about sharing the right knowledge to connect the dots and close the smallest loops?